do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
And there's your champions. The Los Angeles Lakers just won the 2020 NBA title behind amazing performances from LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And they've got no signs of stopping soon, with Anthony Davis only getting better and LeBron somehow sustaining his amazing play even into his late 30s. Can the Lakers go back-to-back next year? Welcome back, everybody. It's Courtside TV, and today we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'm going to remind you, don't forget to subscribe. The Finals MVP, LeBron James, showed again why he is one of the best players in the world at age 35 this year. What he has done was absolutely remarkable. I mean, through 4 games of the Finals, I thought that Anthony Davis was the Finals MVP, but those last 2 games really gave it to LeBron. Even in the Game 5 loss, that was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. Game 6, he played well again and captured his 4th title and 4th Finals MVP. So LeBron, he is obviously one of the all-time greats. Personally, I don't want to get too much into the GOAT combo. I still probably would take Michael Jordan over LeBron, but it's certainly getting closer and closer. And it's just so strange because LeBron is 35 years old and he has shown no signs of slowing down or declining in his skill set or whatever. And with the way that he plays the game, there's a real chance that he can play at a very high level for, a lot longer than you might expect him to, because he has that great passing ability. He's known to take very good care of his body and keep his athleticism in tip-top shape. And so as long as he wants to, he can be a good basketball player. And even if he loses a little bit of that athleticism, he loses a little bit of his quickness and speed, maybe loses a little bit of his shooting ability or his finishing around the rim, whatever, he can still be very effective as a playmaker, controlling the offense. And especially next to Anthony Davis, who I think they kind of maximize each other's skill sets, LeBron has a real chance to be productive, for 5 more seasons, which is kind of scary to think about. But I really think it's true. And so he has, I think, 1 year left with a player option. Yeah, he has 1 year left and then a player option for the following year with the Lakers. As of right now, it looks like, it's a great situation for him to be in, but who knows, because it's LeBron. He's known to move around. He's moved multiple times now. And there's been speculation about him wanting to go play with Bronny if he wants to, stick around in the league for long enough to see Bronny come into the NBA. He could potentially go to whichever team drafts Bronny. If that even becomes a thing, that's kind of hard to project out that early. Bronny's still in high school, but that's a possibility. But LeBron, obviously still a great player. Still, a lot of people consider him to be the best player in the league. I'm not sure where I stand on that right now. That's a topic for another day. But LeBron is still very good, and he's going to be leading this Lakers team to the playoffs along with Anthony Davis for, the next multiple years, as long as he wants to be there and as long as he wants to continue playing basketball. Now, Anthony Davis is a guy who I think proved a lot of people wrong with his play this year. I was a little bit critical of Anthony Davis coming into his time with the Lakers after he was with the Pelicans, just because with the Pelicans he struggled to have playoff success. As the team leader, there was times where they struggled to get out of the first round. I think they only got out of the first round once in all the time that he was there, missed the playoffs a lot of times. And you can chalk that up to failures from an ownership standpoint, not putting a competitive roster around him, whatever. Or maybe Anthony Davis is better suited as a number 2 option, and which he was this year next to LeBron. And you can say all that you want, but I thought he played extremely well in the playoffs this year. Certainly moved him up a couple spots in my rankings. I think he proved why he was so sought after by the Lakers. And why they traded so much to get him, and now it almost kind of feels like they didn't give up enough. The Pelicans should have gotten more, just because of how well he played in the playoffs this year. Like I said, I thought he was the Finals MVP through 4 games. After that, I think it flipped over to LeBron, but it was still a close race. You could have made a case for Anthony Davis, and he even played well. He had that game winner against Denver in the round before, played well against the Rockets, and in the first round against Portland. He just had an amazing postseason run, efficient scorer at all 3 levels, around the rim, mid-range, from 3. And he was just able to be one of the most efficient offensive players in the playoffs, as well as being incredibly impactful on defense. We saw his defensive impact in that Game 6, that closeout game of the NBA Finals. There was also a game earlier in the series, I believe it was Game 4, where he kind of closed out the game on the heels of his defense. And he's just played really, really well and showed why many people thought he was the Defensive Player of the Year this season. Giannis ended up winning it. I don't disagree because it's a regular season award. But in the playoffs, I would certainly say that Anthony Davis was the playoff Defensive Player of the Year. And so he proved his worth, and he is probably going to be a free agent this offseason. He has a player option. It's likely he'll decline it. We got reports this morning that he's going to decline and re-sign with the Lakers. I didn't really need a report to tell me that. That's pretty... that was widely speculated. Everybody basically knew that was going to happen. It's looking like it's going to be a 1+1 just so he can match up with LeBron's deal. So he can do a 1+1 and then potentially have the veteran Supermax available to him when he does enter free agency again. The 10-year veteran, whatever. Just it's money standpoints, it'll make sense. And if he can enter free agency the same time as LeBron James, potentially there's a chance that they go their separate ways at that point. Who knows? It's hard to project out that far. But it's looking like it's going to be a 1+1 for Davis with the Lakers, which makes sense, I think, for both sides. And so he's going to be back, and they're basically going to run this team back next year. And Anthony Davis is only 27 years old. He's still getting better, just barely entering the prime of his career. And so it's really scary to think about how the Lakers potentially have this guy as the face of their franchise, even as LeBron ages, because Anthony Davis is perfectly ready to take up that mantle and be the number one option if LeBron has to tone it down slightly as he gets older. So now we're looking at their cap sheet, and basically they have a lot of quality role players around LeBron and Anthony Davis, and a lot of people were skeptical of the Lakers' depth coming into the season. I was one of those people, even going into the playoffs, being skeptical of their depth. And you could poke some holes in it and say, oh, well, they don't have that third option, that third consistent option. It's kind of a different guy every night, whatever. And you could say all that you want, but I think they really proved themselves to be super effective in the finals, and throughout that whole postseason run, really. You could point to a lot of different guys who stepped up and played above their level. Rondo, Caruso, KCP, Markieff Morris, Dwight Howard are all guys who the Lakers probably got more out of them than a lot of people expected them to get, and that was it was key to their championship win. If they didn't have a lot of those players, they would not have been nearly as successful. Of course, with LeBron and Anthony Davis, your team is going to be very good, but that their depth did really actually end up helping them out quite a bit. And so, looking at what they can potentially do this offseason, they do have a couple key free agents here. KCP has a player option for $8 million. Prior to his playoff run, I would have thought he would have taken that, but now he might actually decline and try to get a little bit more money. I believe he is with Clutch Sports, and so I would assume that he does come back to the Lakers, but they're going to try to get a little bit more money out of the team, I would assume. So he might decline that and try to get a little bit of a raise on that $8 million salary. And I don't anticipate him going elsewhere. If he does opt out, I think it would just be to re-sign on the longer term or for a little bit more. So I don't think he leaves, but potentially, who knows. Jared Dudley didn't really play, was just there to be a veteran leader. He would potentially retire or go sign somewhere else to be a veteran leader. I don't really think the Lakers are going to bring him back. It doesn't really matter. Dwight Howard is a guy who will get another contract. A lot of people thought he might be out of the league pretty soon, but he played well enough this year to get another contract from some other teams. There was reported interest this morning from the Golden State Warriors, maybe some other veteran teams who are in need of a center, some contending teams who are in need of a veteran center would potentially take a look at Dwight Howard, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers brought him back as well. Markieff Morris is another guy who is key for them in their playoff run. He had a pretty bad play at the end of Game 5, but it didn't end up mattering. They won the series anyway. And he's another guy who I think they should consider bringing back. If they can get him for another vet minimum, that'd be great. And at 31 years old, I think he provides some good veteran mentorship, spacing, toughness, stuff like that. Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, neither of them played very much. They're just kind of there for depth and injury coverage. But I mean, I wouldn't be upset on another one-year deal for Dion. J.R. Smith, I think you just kind of let him go off into the sunset. Maybe retirement for J.R. Smith. He'll drink a lot of Hennessy. We'll see if he ends up somewhere else, but I don't think so. And Dion Waiters, I think I would maybe take another chance on Dion Waiters on a one-year deal. I think he can provide a little bit more depth in the regular season. He didn't play much in the playoffs, but he might be more of a, spark plug off the bench in the regular season type player and gets cut out of the rotation when you get into the postseason. But on a veteran minimum, I would not be opposed to that for Dion. And so that's pretty much it. I already talked about Anthony Davis. He's probably going to be coming back. So if I was the Lakers, what would I do in terms of looking to improve the roster? And I think they have a couple of options here. They have that big expiring contract of Danny Green. Danny Green's at about $15 million. And looking at his performance over the past couple of years in the playoffs, specifically this postseason run, and really throughout the entire bubble, he was very, very cold from three. We know that Danny Green is a good three-point shooter. He has had great finals three-point shooting performances in the past. Look no further than last year with the Raptors. He shot very well. And so maybe they keep him and keep their faith in Danny Green as a shooter and as a playoff performer, because he has shown that he can do it before, and perhaps they would be rewarded for doing that. But on that $15 million contract, I would not be surprised to see them look for options to upgrade the roster. Danny Green could potentially be used as a salary filler if you were trading for another player. So maybe a package like Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma and a draft pick for somebody making somewhere in that salary range would potentially be something that the Lakers could do. They could scrape together a couple more contracts, throw in that KCP contract, Avery Bradley, JaVale McGee, in order to get to some higher numbers. There was some rumors about them trading for Chris Paul. I don't know how realistic that is, but I think that would be a great move if they could pull it off. The only problem is they'd have to give up a lot of depth just in order to make up salary to get to that number. So we will have to see what they do end up doing, but they have some ammunition to trade for a player making in the 20 millions on salary if they were willing to do that. It would require giving up Danny Green, KCP, Kuzma, potentially Avery Bradley, and whatever draft picks they have left. I believe they have their pick this year near the end of the first round, and then after that a lot of their picks were traded for Anthony Davis, so they're not going to have very much left over. So if they are going to make a trade, it's going to be using that first round pick, likely Kuzma and Danny Green. So the Lakers absolutely are going to be on the short list of contenders for next season. They're going to have a great chance to repeat. Again, the league is going to be even tougher for them next year with the Clippers losing so early in the playoffs. The Lakers kind of didn't have a lot of competition in the Western Conference. The Nuggets are obviously a good team, but they just weren't quite ready yet. And so maybe the Clippers would have given them more of a fight, but who knows. So the Clippers not being ready yet, the Warriors not being healthy, of course, is another one. The Bucks had their own set of issues. Denver will be better with another year of development from their young guys. And you can point and say, okay, so the Lakers will probably have a little bit more competition next year to go back-to-back, but certainly they will be, on that short list of teams who are absolutely capable of winning the title next year, and they have just as good of a shot as anybody. And so if I was the Lakers, I would probably just try to run this team back as much as I can. Like I said, re-sign guys like Dwight Howard and Markieff Morris, KCP if he opts out of his option. They already are bringing back Davis, which makes sense. And so basically just try to run this team back. Potentially, if you're looking for guys on the free agent market, maybe like another backup forward, guy who could play the 3 or 4-ish would be nice for them to have. I think their guard rotation is actually pretty good. If Rondo doesn't have a big drop-off, and if Caruso continues to be who he was, they'll get Avery Bradley back after he wasn't in the bubble. And so I think their guard rotation is actually okay. But maybe another backup forward or something to back up LeBron or AD for injury concerns or whatever. The Lakers just have to hope that they stay healthy and just another year of chemistry with all of them. Anthony Davis gets better. I think they'll be okay. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the Lakers. They are absolutely a real threat to repeat. So that's going to be it for the title-winning 2020 NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. And we'll be back within the next couple of days with another video. Like I said, we're about halfway through all the teams in the NBA. My plan is to get through all 30 before next season starts. We're on a good pace to get there, and then looking for some other, content once free agency begins. We get some trades happening, stuff like that. We'll be looking for some other options there. So anyway, that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.